this episode is based in my daughter's bedroom because the family's downstairs, a lot of noise, so obviously not the best place to do this, but peace and quiet up here. And we are on, well, I've actually passed the 30 days website design challenge, but I thought maybe this special episode will be about making the landing page and the process of it, just doing a very simple basic one for any beginners or developers who want to learn how to do this. And this is starting from scratch, so let's get into the challenge. And before we get into the challenge, if you do find the content useful, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and I would encourage you to practice every day if you're a beginner, especially if you're a developer that wants to improve in design. 30 minutes, an hour is great. You'll get better, and let's do this. So with the idea is a landing page template. How do I start? How do I begin? And this always begins with the title or the copy. Now what we're going to learn in this is typography, some basics on typography, layout. We're going to start with black and white or dark grey. We're not going to worry about colour. We're just going to get layout and font sizes and all that good stuff correct. So first thing to do is get the main heading. Let's give it something. So the landing page template based on the latest trends and good patterns. Okay, so just the first thing to point out, now this is in Figma. The canvas that I start at is 1920 by 1080. It's a big canvas, so and the nice thing is with Figma I'm zoomed out about 50%, and this gives you a good it just gives you a good view of the whole page when you're zoomed out. When you zoom right in or quite 100%, you can't really get a feel for the whole page. So the first thing with the heading, you want the heading to stand out, and the font I'm using for this particular one is Space Grotesque. It's not Nonito, this is Space Grotesque. It's a sans serif font. It's pretty modern and clean. And first thing you would do is the measure. So the measure is how many characters per line, and in this case is a heading. So for example, you don't want the user to read a really long line like this, and some designs are like this as well, where it's very imbalanced. You can see a lot of space beneath. So the easiest thing to do is just to reduce the width, so now there's no huge gaps. Now you can feel the balance is way better, as opposed to having something like that. And what I've said before on some feedback is you have a widow or an orphan, which means it's the only word on its own line, which is what you want to avoid. Sometimes it works for headings where there's only 1 or 2 or 3 words, but in this case just make sure that it's the same width, and it's way better balanced that way. And also you want to have it left aligned to begin with, and straight away I'm just going bold. Again, you're making it stand out, and I'm going with either you go 48 or you go 64, and I tend to go 64 pixels because that is a really big heading for contrast. You want it, that is what you want to stand out, because ultimately the web is 95% typography or copy, and there's a really good article on that. So get the typography down, focus on that, don't worry about anything else. So here again I'm just balancing I'm just doing the measure, so I feel, yeah, this fits pretty well, and it's in bold. Another thing to do is the line height. So the line height is the space between the 2 lines, and when it's a heading you might want to reduce the gap a bit. So you can just you can just hold shift and tap down or up. So you could stick to 150. I don't think that's too bad because the measure here is quite long, but just experiment a bit. So sometimes you'll know that it's bad when they start to crash into each other. Oops. So for example here, the D and the G are crashing in. So I think 100% is normally solid, which means there's no gap between, well, there is a gap, but I can't remember the term. But a good rule is maybe around 120 is a nice line height. Because it's quite a long sentence, let's see how it looks with three words, and hopefully we're not getting disturbed because this is a special episode. I asked not to be disturbed for 30 minutes, hopefully. So anyway, but this is how it is nowadays, right? Working from home, your family's at home, it's hard to get the peace and the quiet, especially you have a daughter as well, or children. I know that's not an excuse, but hey, that's the way life is at the moment. So if we go back, and here I'm deciding, okay, yeah, maybe 2 lines is too much. Let's say we go to 3 lines. And the reason why I'm going 3 lines is because I'm going to follow a pattern, which you'll see in a minute, which is having the heading on the left. And the reason why you have the heading on the left is because depending who you target, but most people read from left to right, depending on which country. So you want the heading on the left, and then you want the product or the image or whatever you're selling on the right, and that's a good balance. And that is a pattern that you see everywhere, and it works. So this is a nice basic pattern to use. So here, some people again will say, how do you know where to lay it out? Or, you know, an example is you can vertically align it. And another thing to do, which I'll show you now, is the nav. So the nav, you just start with the logo. So I just keep it very simple, and this is going to be a really long one. It's probably a terrible one, so I'm just going to abbreviate it. So the landing page, right? This is just a template, right? So what you can do is, okay, I'll go 24 pixels. You can imagine that going in any shape, and this is in all caps. It's very simple. If you have a landing page, you could just use the initials of the words. So that's what I've done here, the landing page. And then from there, what I tend to do, or what you see is, you can determine the height on the Y from the distance from the top to where the nav is. So I just say, okay, 100. Some designs, they have it really too high, like up there, or maybe here. That's too tight. The reason why, if you have it tight, is maybe because you have it on a smaller screen, responsive design like an iPad, which is great, but we're doing it in a big canvas. So you want to, at this moment, we're designing for a big canvas. So let's utilize the space, okay? Because users will get a different experience on a big screen as opposed to an iPad or a mobile phone. So let's give it some space. You've got to use some white space. So like, for example, 80 pixels. And there you go. Simple as that. And then in terms of the nav items, again, you can just copy it across. And then what they recommend to do is to go with 16 pixels default font size. And that is what the web is defaulting to, which I think is a good thing to do. But me, I bumped it up. And of course, this depends on your audience. I'm going to regular, 18 pixels. And again, you just go with the usual stuff. So what is it about? And then what I'm going to do now is create an auto layout. So you can right click, add auto layout, and you'll see why adding auto layout is good. And then Command C, Command V, and then if I select both and then right click, add auto layout, it then groups it. And then now I want it to go to align horizontally, and also I want to give it a nice big gap, or let's say 40. And okay, sorry, let's get one more in. So about features, you always see these because they're typically on a SAS page, for example. And this is just an exercise of where you put nav items. So about, features, pricing. Okay, you're probably going to get more. You might get contact, but at the moment let's stick with free, and let's center align this. Okay, and then what you always normally have at the end and the top right, and this is to balance the whole thing, is a CTA. So what I'll do here, I'll copy this, I'll bring it right over here, and then the normal CTA you see is sign up. And I'm going to bring this right down to 18 and keep it bold. And another nice thing to do is if I actually let's see if I actually do this with auto layout as well. So Shift A is the shortcut, and if I fill that with, another thing to say is Tailwind is awesome, Tailwind CSS, but we're just going to stick to black. Oh, do we have a solid black? Okay, just keep it solid black for now. You want to go dark grey, but this is just an example. Actually, I'll show you what I mean. So I've added Tailwind CSS as the framework. They got this in the Figma community, so I'm switching that on. And let's go dark grey. And the reason why is because dark grey is very, it's pure black and pure white is quite harsh on the eyes. So there it is, and I'm going with the darkest grey. And now let's say we make the font the lightest grey, and then here we're gonna give it a padding of, on the left, this is another nice thing about auto layout, you can say, so this is so precise, 20 and 20. We are going to give it a fixed height, and we are going to go with 48, and the reason why is because of we're going to use the 48 or the 8 pixel grid. You can research that up, but here I'm going with 48, or you could say 40 because that's within the 8-point grid. So if I do 5 times 8, 40. Okay, and then what we do, we add some rounded corners, let's say 6 pixels, and there you go. Pretty straightforward. Now the magic of it is, if I select all these items, now you can, if we go back to layers, now we can group them. So Command G if you're on Apple, and then add another layout. So now I can vertically align them in the middle. You can see that that logo went vertically aligned. I can also space between. So let's see if this works. You see that? Figma's beautiful, right? Responsive design, mobile, iPad, look at that. That's just wonderful. Now, what size do you go with? What width do you go with? Me, I go with 1680 because this is a framework on Tailwind CSS UI. There's a lot of there's breakpoints, for example. I tend to go with this 1680 because this is a typical size with large screens. However, what you have to be careful of is this is not perfectly in the middle because it depends on these elements. It still looks alright, but it's not perfectly in the middle. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to get rid of the auto layout, go back here, and then hit the align. You can see it nudges it a bit. That wasn't perfectly in the middle. Anyway, So now it's vertically in the middle. You've got X of 120. Now, what's a lot of feedback is you should be aligning this to, right here. Okay, so one way to add the grid, you can go to layout grid. Oops. But we are going to do 8 pixels because we're using the 8 pixel grid. And now we are going to use the see that? So we just use the lines there. Sometimes I don't want to always use the grid because if the grid is important. It's very important. But for this exercise, it's just straight in. If you know your sizes, you don't always have to rely on the grid. But you can see here it's lining up pretty nicely. And then the next thing to do is to create a CTA. So this is quite a big heading. It would be nice to break this down. So the landing page based on the landing page. Be nice to break this down. So I'm thinking we'll get there in a minute. So here again, wow, we're 20 minutes in. Copy this, go out into the frame, paste it, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the bigger CTA. Now typically you have 3 sizes. You have small, which is this, or maybe this is default size. The reason why you go 40 is because of the fat fingers in iOS, their guidelines. I think they say at least 42 maybe, or 44. Which is why I could go to 48, right? But I'll stick at 40 for now. But for this one, we want to go large. So if I add another 48, you keep on incrementing it. If I add 16, 64 now. If I add another 8, it's going to be 72. And this way, you're not really guessing on what it should be. You're using the 8-point grid. Or I don't know why they say 8.8 pixel grid. And then we just need to vertically line it. You can see that. It's beautiful. Auto layers just makes it so much easier. But what we have to do is increase the spacing on the left and the right. And I tend to go with 40. And also the font size has to be bigger because that was 18. So let's go with 24. Now you can see that. So now I'm zooming out at 25%, 50%. You can see that this is, it does stand out, but we can make it bigger. But the contrast is black, dark grey and white. Sorry, and at the end of the day, the goal is to hit the CTA because you want them to perform something. Download, sign up. And then the other side to this is an input field such as email. So again, I'll just copy this over. So what I did there is I hit Shift and Option, and then just drag it across. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is, let's see. So I'm going to give this the second lightest grey. And then we are going to go in and give that a grey of, let's say, it has to look like a placeholder text. So let's see, your email address, can't spell address, and let's go with regular. So let's zoom in now. So now we're really freestyling here. We're keeping it really loose and simple. So now I select both of these auto frames and I'm going to create a new one. Straight away it aligns it up nicely. Again, it's just, you don't have to guess these things. These tools are just, these features are just the way it should be. So now I'm thinking, oh, that already is looking pretty nice. And that, there you go, it's lined up now just by nudging it to the left. We could probably give a bit more space, right? So I'm thinking, yeah, let's make this a bit bigger, and see it already it already is aligning up nicely. So let's say I make that 300. Well, okay, let's say 400. Email address is aligned in the middle, which is okay for now. And well, actually, yeah, I think that works fine. So now we got the two main things, and we can group these as well. So we add another auto layout, and we can decide the spacing. So if I wanted 100 between, there you go. Now let's say 40 within the 8-point grid. And now we have the CTA, we have the form, the sign up, the heading. Now I think the heading is quite a lot, so we could break this down. So you'll have a subheading. So the landing page template. The landing page template. So obviously this is not a copy exercise, right? There could be way better copy than this. So I'm just going to give really simple, the landing page template. Or anyone can have that. So let's say the latest landing page template 2020, okay, which is probably terrible, but we're keeping it simple. And then I'm going to paste this back because I'm going to use this heading here based on the latest trends and good patterns and UI patterns. And let's bring that right down to 18. Again, this is quite a nice style that you'll see. So we're going to make that 20. We're going to make that medium. Or we're going to make it regular. Based on the latest trends and UI patterns. The latest landing page template. Based on the latest trends and UI patterns. Okay, so we are going to then add this to here. I've pasted it in, so now it's part of this. Now the nice thing about it, let's see if this works. If I go down, okay, if I go up, it's changing the order just by the pressing on your keypad. It's just so much better because you don't have to drag things around, and you know the spacing between these are the same. I mean, that is just so simple. The latest landing page template. Now, can I make the measure better? There we go. Just by tweaking that, you can see it's a much better balance. We can even go further. We could say, should we make that a bit tighter? I've seen some at 1:1:15. There you go. And when it gets too small, sometimes you can increase the letter spacing. Now, we're not going to go too crazy. Let's just say 1%. This, we can even decrease it. -1%. We're not going crazy. This is just simple stuff. And when you have a big heading, there's more gaps between the letters, and you can tighten the letter spacing. And when you make it smaller, which we have here, you can increase the letter spacing. Sometimes, not all the time, but this is only font weight 20, so we're going to keep it at 0. So now if I just hide you can see that it lays out really well. But for me, I think, why not bring this further into the center? So here I'm using the X rather than dragging it. Let's say 200, or let's say 250. Okay, so again, it doesn't have to be perfect with the grid. We just bringing this into the center because there's so much white space here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a hero image. So what I tend to do is, let's bring in a frame. This can be whatever size, but I'm just going to, let's say the 8-point grid, right? So 48 times 8, 384. Wow. Okay, let's quickly fill it. We're going to fill it any grey. So times that by 2, 768. Okay, to me that sounds fine. And what was the height? So 768 divided by 2, well, plus 48 plus 48 plus 48. I'm thinking we can have a nice long image of a user, right? There you go. So here I've lined it up because I'm using the Figma tool. Now there's a big gap here, so we can bring this in as well. Have a gap there, and it is just, it's amazing, right? So another thing that we want to do is add a testimonial, because this is another thing with landing pages. Depending on the product, you want to have some sort of proof, social proof. So in this case, again, I'm going to go with a person, and then I'm going to group this, Command G. Within this group, I'm also going to add the very simple testimonial saying I love this template, or I love this template. Saved me so much time. Okay, so let's zoom right in, and we're going to make this 18. And then we're just going to drag down, so Shift and Option, drag down, and we are going to group this, and we're going to do auto layout. So Command G to group, and then add auto layout. So now we can have a gap of 10, for example, or let's stick with 8 and then what I'm going to do, you can do hyphen, or I'm going to do the dash, and we're going to put in Jane Doe, or John Doe this time, John Doe. There you go, right? So you got the testimonial, and you got the user name. We're going to also make this, you're going to select both items, and then you're going to do Shift A to add another auto layout, and then we can vertically align it, and then you can decide the spacing between. So 8-point grid, let's say 16 pixels. There you go. That is practically the landing page template. Now you can do so many versions. We can copy that frame, paste it. We don't want portrait, right? We have a product where it's landscape. Okay, so here again, this works as well. And some people point out, hey, it's not aligning here. Fair enough, right? But sometimes we paste it again. Some images, they bleed off the page. They're not always perfectly aligned, right? You have to think about the grid, breaking out of the grid, not your typical, you see that? So maybe that doesn't look perfectly balanced now. So here we could probably bring this more to the left, but now you see a big gap. So anyway, again, we're trying to keep it simple. So if I just bring that in, so these three, they're just very nice simple templates. You have the CTA, you have a hero image, right? These three work. They're just nice and simple and clean. We're not introducing any patterns or anything. We talked about typography, the grid. The only thing here, let's see, is actually getting this on the left align, so we can reduce this to, let's say, 20, or can we actually? So 20. And so let's see here again. that should be on the left. There you go. So align it from the left. Should we say 40? Yeah, there we go. That's fine as well. Okay, so nice and simple, nice and clean, and again, looking at this from afar, you're thinking, ooh, if you really want to have things in the middle, we can group this. We can add Shift A, so it's perfectly aligned. The gap between these two items, let's say, what was 48 times by 2, or 96, let's just say 100. And then we can, let's see if I were to do this, resize to fit. Okay, not sure why those are not. Let's see if I, yeah. Okay, so there's probably certain things that are not perfect yet, but it still works very nicely. So the last thing to do is to find an image, and where else to go then? We have Unsplash, right, or Pexels. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. So we go into Unsplash. Let me just bring this down, and people, because this is always about people. Normally the product, wow, that must hurt a lot. Okay, so we're going to choose one person who's happy on the phone, okay, because that is a typical thing. It's a product shot with a phone, and we're going to go to my collection because this can take ages. So mobile payment, okay, where do we have, because then I might have to go to using a phone. Yes, okay, she looks very happy. Is that going to work? Should we use pets for fun? I mean, that looks, should we use pets or people? Let's try pets out, right? So download this one. This is fun, right? We'll have a pets version, and we're going to have a human version. Cat, right? Cat is looking really pleased, and let's just, yeah, those two, and then let's look at people, right? People using a phone. You know, I'm not feeling these, so let's go to Pexels, right? Pexels versus Unsplash. So let's go to my collections and let's see. So person, music, yoga. I mean, that looks, some of these images are amazing. Fitness, people. Look at that, very handsome dude. So, pardon me. Okay, so this one, these are quite typical. They're very popular. I'm going to go with the popular one. And let's download this. She's using something, right? You don't know what it is at the moment. She's using the landing page. I don't know. So let's get that, because I think that's a nice picture. It's got a lot of color, and this is also nice too. And we need someone looking at the heading, but we don't have someone looking up. We have someone looking down. Well, let's get a male in there. So I'm thinking, okay, got this guy. He's looking down, isn't he? So he could be looking down at his testimonial. This guy is looking, oh, okay, maybe this guy. Yeah, I think this guy looks good. He's looking kind of to the right. Okay, so we're not going to do any remove background stuff. So if I go to downloads, I think the pets look really nice. So I'll just drag this in. Can't drag at the moment. Is it doing it? Drag. Nah, don't have to get my mouse. Okay, might have to do it one by one because I'm on the magic thingamajig and it's terrible to use. Oh my god, it's horrible. Actually, okay, wow. Cat is looking amazing. Okay, is that going in? There she is. And the fellow, yes. Let's start with pets, right? Because pets are just awesome. I'm allergic to cats, but apparently you can get cats with fur that is human grown or something. That's what my neighbor said. Anyway, random fact. I love cats and I love dogs. Just want to put it out there. So let's take these templates, right, and let's just copy them. Can't drag. Let's do it one at a time. Okay, one at a time. Wow, 40 minutes. And let's get the dog. Okay, the dog just looks like a king, the way he's looking. And now, if we go to the frame, we'll paste it in. Look at that. And then I'm holding Shift and Option, or Alt, I think, on the Mac keyboard, and dragging it. And I mean, look at that. Just looks. And now, what I want to do is just flip it horizontally to face the heading. This is where you want your user to look. It's a very simple thing to do and very simple to overlook, but look at that. Amazing. Just amazing image. Boom. And we need a testimonial. Okay, we need the cat in there. She's staring straight at you. Okay, so we're going to go in, we're going to group it because we use the shape this time just to practice. Right click, use as a mask. Am I doing this right? Command V to paste it in. Okay, I'm doing it right. Go in and we want to resize the image. Oh my gosh, it's huge. So bring it right down. Look at that face. Look at the eyes. Wow. Look at those beautiful eyes. Boom. Amazing. The latest landing page template 2020. Gorgeous. Really is. Okay. Another thing to note is don't make these pure black. Okay, so we're going with number 7. Number 7. Because when you have everything black, it's like nothing stands out. Everything's equal. So just go a bit lighter on the scale. We're going to 700, right? So, boom. I need to sort this out as well. I didn't create a component. So what did we do, if I remind myself? We go to here and we align it to the left. There we go. I mean, it works, right? It really does work. Better do that here since I'm on it. We want it to align to the left, and we want this one to align to the left as well. Boom. Beautiful. Now, these two images they're not landscape, right? So we're going to use this one again. We're going to bring them two in. Okay, so she's very happy. We are going to place that right in that frame, and we're going to just boom, right? I've got to stop saying boom. There you go. That's good enough. And then we need to bring in another avatar. This is the nice thing about avatars and testimonials. If you have a social proof on Twitter, for example, it would be nice to use that. So paste that in. Ooh, that didn't work. I have to group it. Command G, and then right click, use as a mask. Command V, and then bring that right down. Ooh, let's see if that flipped the image. Yeah, it did. He's on his phone as well. Not going to be the best picture, but anyway, flip horizontal. There you go. Wow, he's kind of looking that way, kind of, right? And again, what's more important in these two in terms of emphasizing text? I would say what he's saying is more important, right? So make this the lesser gray. Let's say 700. This shouldn't be pure black, so we're going with the darkest gray, which is here. There you go, right? And that is just, it works. It really does work. It's amazing. And I'm not even touching color, not touching anything else, just typography, layout. And this one, you can probably see it's too, you need to bring it vertically up, so bang, just vertically align it. This one, vertically align it. And what can I say? It works fine. So I mean, that the images, yeah. Sign up, heading, testimonial, product, image, nav, and then hopefully, yeah, you've enjoyed the episode. Again, if you're a beginner, practice. I'm going to try and share this in the Figma community if I can. So my name is Roy, I'm a web designer. If you do find the content useful, please leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, any feedback, any ideas. The plan is now to make a project for the whole week, starting from the logo all the way to the mobile version, and that's going to be fun. So yeah, hopefully you will join me for those, and hopefully you enjoy this episode, and I'll see you in the next episode. Okay, bye.